good evening. Who lies in wait in your golf course for 12 hours and doesn't even get a hole in one? It's us, the lads from ASTV, American Scouts of TV Tours Tonight podcast, joined as always by Brian and Trevor. Brian, how are you?
Doing great.
And Trevor, how are you?
Hanging in there.
I see you've got Bournemouth titles in yours. I have Ringo Starr because I'm going to see him in Connecticut tomorrow night.
Ooh.
It'll be fantastic. I cannot wait. And I'll be throwing my knickers at him like it's going out of fashion. I may even wear 5 pairs, just do it multiple times. But lots to talk about tonight. Before we get to anything that we do, the Fantasy League show will be on after us. If you are into EPL Fantasy League, you get some hints and tips on how not to be a loser like I am, which is why I don't do it. And hints and tips on how to be awesome on it, like Galley's wife, who apparently wipes the floor with everybody. So that will be a good one. So stick around after our show for that. And also, please give us your comments. We don't get to all of them, but we do like to interact with them when they are good and not spam. Hint, hint. And we have a good few things to talk about tonight. Trevor is not one of them, so I thought I'd put in a nice name for him that would, spawn his WWE memories. We're going to talk about the Champions League format. We've had a week of it and what we think of it so far. Liverpool getting a nice 3-1 win out of it for the first day. Rodri talking about players going on strike with that nice little classic wrestling tag team name there, Strike Force. Darwin Núñez. We'll talk about Núñez because we have to, because it's Thursday. But we also have to talk about the shockingness of his performances so far. And then we look ahead to the game at the weekend. But first things first, the Champions League format, boys, I was skeptical about it. And I still don't have a conclusive thought on it. But listening to some of the analysis after the game, and more importantly, an analysis about Celtic's game, with their nice 5-1 win against Slovan Bratislava. It looks like the win in the first game has put anybody who's got one in a very good footing going forward. It's a nice 3 points to have, because I didn't realize there's a lot of ways to qualify into something. There's a lot of places you can do so. And that kind of makes it a bit exciting now. I'm actually really looking forward to see how that shakes out, whether, one game that doesn't go in your favor can be made up, or whether that doesn't exist now because we don't have the away leg, so to speak, of the group games. So we'll start with Brian. Brian, what do you think of it so far now that we've had a week? Has there been a change, do you think, in how teams have approached the games? Has there been a change in, expectations? Now there's the 2 extra games. Now we kind of have a bit of a margin of error, really, don't we?
I mean, I like you, I was skeptical about going into it, of how it was going to fan out. But I think as I see this round of results right there, you got some surprises that happened right there. I mean, Barcelona going there getting beat today, City and Inter in a draw. I mean, you've got some Celtic winning. You've got some interesting things that could happen through there. I mean, and like you said, there's many ways to go qualify for this. But I mean, the ultimate route right there is to be in that top 8 right there. You're with the group winners of each stage. Then that way you can have a whole bye right there, a bye to the round of 16. So, I mean, if we could get to that, that'd be fantastic, because that'll be alleviate a lot of stress for fixtures like that until we're not having to play again until probably February, March timeframe, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I think it's a fun watch. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in round 2 and how the second round, how we fan out with Bologna, because then already with the 3 points ahead of us right there. I mean, so that's a big positive. I mean, it's just my biggest worry right there when we list all the groups was seeing Real Madrid right there further down toward the end, and if we don't go there and get maximum points to that point right there, would be what will happen with us as far as being in our group. But I mean, good. It's a great start for us.
I mean, Trevor, it is something to be said for the fact that we only play Real Madrid once, at least in this stage, and we could get to that game with not needing anything from it, which for once would be a nice feeling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, having a non-stakes game with Real Madrid feels really, really good, because they have just been the absolute bane of Liverpool fans' existence for the better part of a decade. So I'm good with them just being a throwaway at this point. But as Brian mentioned, yeah, there's teams where the way it's set up right now, I think if you get to like double-digit points, you're in that playoff talk. So teams that weren't expected to get 3 points on this opening day, like Celtic, like Brest, like all these teams that were kind of in that just void of where we're going to go get points in our 8 matches. The fact that now that they are kind of the controllers of their own destiny going forward, yeah, we'll poo-poo it as Super League light, but it does leave a lot of avenues open for a lot of teams. I don't want Liverpool to be part of that craziness. I don't want to be in a playoff. Please, for the love of God, I don't want to be in the playoff.
Brian, in terms of Celtic, just because I watched that game, some of it at least, a great way to waste a late lunch break. But Villa as well got a nice opening day result. Teams that it maybe in the group stages would have taken that first game cagey, would have closed up shop and then tried to just, play for the clean sheet and then take whatever they can get on the scoreboard goals-wise. But Celtic played really well. They played like a team that were confident and wanted to get 3 points, which is a very domestic Brendan Rodgers way to play. But as we know, never was the European way of playing for him. So maybe all he needed at Liverpool was this format to open up. But Villa played a good tactical game and got the win they wanted. But it's almost like teams can now play without fear, knowing that there is that buffer zone. And that's why Barcelona, I don't even know how well they're doing this season in La Liga. It's all been passing me by so much. But teams are not afraid to go for it. And that could make this league incredibly exciting, which will go a long way towards selling it.
Crushing it in La Liga.
Say again?
Barcelona is actually doing really well in La Liga.
Oh, even better then. So
but they are just absolutely decimated by the injury bug. They're replicating our midfield from last season.
And preempting our discussion for the next part of the show. But I mean, just having those extra 2 games, it's a teaser. Just having those 2 extra games and teams going out to win them rather than not lose them could be a nice unintended consequence for UEFA that this actually makes the Champions League way more exciting. What do you think?
I mean, it does right there because you have to go for maximum points in this. I mean, it's not a competition to go like with like the old format where you had like your 4th pot team where you're like, okay, you had 2 matches against them. Who cares? I'll go there. I can go there and take care of that. It's all about getting the draw against like your pot 2 team or a win and at home and things like that to play with the numbers. Now, guess what? You got to win. I mean, and you have to go for it. Because, and as I said, I think we talked about like either last week or the week before that there's going to be some pot 1 teams right there that probably aren't going to make it through. I think they're going to have some problems with this format. So you may see like a Leverkusen right there not make it to the next round, or either that get put into that group of 32 right there where they have to go to the knockouts because the way the fixtures are working out. If you have a pot 4 team right there that was to say, guess what? I want to go there and make a name for myself. You have these a fringe player that we don't really know about goes through and just dogs the shit out of like a Barcelona or Real Madrid or even Arsenal right there and come through. I mean, that's a one. It's good for the player. 2, it's good for the team morale and for them getting known. And so it's a win-win situation. So these players have nothing to lose at all. So I'm all for it. I mean, who would have thought Brest would have came there and won today? I mean, I'm sorry. Those are things right there that you didn't think about ahead of time right there that you would see them going at it for this competition. And again, the way Celtic performed. I mean, you wouldn't. According to Eric Ronaldo on his show right there, that's the greatest moment they had in the Champions League. Sure, they've actually won the European Cup, but yeah. So I mean, it's
winning the European Cup, beating Barcelona in the Champions League, but no, beating Slaven Bratislava.
Yeah, beating Slaven Bratislava.
Yeah. I laughed about it.
When all the
I laughed about it. Right there, it's like, really, dude, you know your history. But anyway, I think it's a great format. I think it's going to be a pretty fun format to watch.
And that's why Ronaldo is on that show and not on this show. He just doesn't have the journalistic accuracy that we do. Big good evening to Alan and Blake Bushy. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to comment on your thoughts on the new Champions League format. Trevor, I was just thinking as we were talking there, though, there was a thing with managers like definitely Rafa Benitez, definitely Jose Mourinho, that kind of early 2000s millennial coach, so to speak, where the actual 6 games of the Champions League were almost plotted out tactically as much as the games themselves. So you're kind of figuring out what games you needed to win, what games you could relax in, and what games you could play the kids in. But it doesn't feel like that's going to be the case anymore with this format. It feels like you really have to put out a good team unless you've already qualified near the end. Do you think that's going to the format is going to have a bearing on team selection, at least for the first few games? Our team's got to try and put out their best teams and try and get the points on the board as quickly as possible.
I think for certain teams, that is going to be 100% the case. There is going to be a decent subsection of teams going where we need to go get 4 or 5 wins on the board and then coast from there. But there you go. Enjoy that, Simon. I'm sorry for your loss. But the way that the format is right now, it does make it a bit more strategic as much as it has that Super League stank to it. It is something where you have to go into these games with a bit more strategy. And I think the way that Slot addressed the Milan game was for everything that all of us talked about. Oh, you have to have a decent amount of rotation, and there's a lot of guys that need to go get minutes there. He seemed to just throw up the middle finger to all of us in that regard. And just people that will go into our Discord from whatever links that they are provided. Everybody was trying to set the world on fire after Christian Pulisic scored that first goal. But everything worked out, and we got the response that we were hoping for. More than anything, I want there just to be a regard for the Champions League at this point. I don't want it to be something where just put all the eggs in the basket, but it is something where, hey, this team, we're coming in this week. You need to go get something out of it. And there's so many instances in our Champions League schedule where you could go, well, play the kids, or we could do rotation. No, get us into that top 8, and then we can fuck around with squad rotation. That's where my head's at. Get us past that point where you need to think about the playoff, and the Champions League, in my mind, will sort out itself.
I just want to point out that Simon O'Connor is actually my cousin from Ireland. Is a fantastic individual, but a proper Spurs fan, has been for, well, all of his life, and I've no idea why. He could have been with us, Simon, you could have had the glory, but you chose Spurs, and that's your cross to bear forever and ever and ever and ever, or until the next Christmas party that we all go to. But before we finish up on this topic,
it could have been me.
Could have been me. Before we finish up on this topic, Brian, if for 1 year only, do you think UEFA have almost pulled the rug out from the Super League's feet? But that, to be fair, is the proper answer, really. We would all say that about our clubs.
They need somebody.
But do you think UEFA have kind of pulled the rug out from under the Super League group's feet? Because there does seem to be a buzz now happening around this format. Probably just because of the newness of it. But what if it spurs a team winning the Champions League this season who has not... Yes, very good, Trevor. Thanks. No pun intended. But a team that has not won it before or has not won it in decades and decades, and because of the way the format worked out, because of the way the knockouts worked out, that maybe a team from maybe Bratislava wins it, maybe Celtic wins it, maybe there's some quirk of fate that a team that nobody expected plays another team that nobody expected, like in 2004, and suddenly everybody can look at it and go, wow, that is a much better way of doing it, because we're not expecting Real Madrid in the final again against an English team for once.
I mean, it could happen. I heard the whole saying right there, a flying squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. It could happen, but I still think that it's all about money. It's all about the money, like we talked about last week. I mean, it depends on how much the clubs are going to get out of this. If the clubs are able to go through to get a good share that is worth their while through this, then it will prosper. But if the clubs right there, but these bigger clubs right there through here actually say, hey, you know what? If we still think we can get the money on our own, a lot more money on our own by doing our own competition, it's going to happen. And I still say right there, this is just a temporary appeasement right there for the Real Madrids and for the other big sides, the Manchester Uniteds, all these teams right there who are considered in that top tier European competition to go with their, well, used to be a top tier competition, but to go there and say, hey, this money should be coming to us because of European football is about us. And so I think that's what's going to wind up happening. It may be in like 5 years, but it's going to be like the Rugby Super League, same exact thing. Hey, we're better than everybody else in our countries. We should be competing on a top tier level. And that's what's going to happen. So it's appeasement, and I think that eventually, right there, if the money doesn't match up, and this competition will be gone away, and then you'll see Red Star Belgrade and teams like that competing for the Champions League title.
The problem a little bit with the new Champions League format is it adds 2 extra games. And Rodri had an interview during the week about all of these extra games and how basically none of the players are being consulted about that, and they're the ones that ultimately will suffer. Plus Everton fans, because they just suffer anyway permanently. That's their lot in life. Trevor, there's talk of, at least from Rodri, it could just be bombast, but he was talking about players going on strike. I'm a full-on union supporting Labour man. I fully agree with workers striking when there are hazardous conditions to be dealt with that are not being addressed. We can look at it from our point of view in the sense of, we're not professional soccer players, so we're not on that roundabout, but I'm sure we would all love to, if we could, be professional soccer players or have been professional soccer players. I won't say it doesn't take a toll on the body. I don't know. I can't even get off the sofa without crying and promising to go on a salad diet for a few weeks. But it is essentially, they're just playing a game. It is taxing on the body, but they can always stop. There's nothing stopping them from going, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll go into media. I've made several tens of millions of dollars. I don't need to pay a mortgage for the rest of my life if I don't have to. Is Rodri carping on a bit and in a misguided fashion, or does he have a valid point? Or is his point completely swept out from under him because of the fact that he plays with a club that could buy every player on the planet and have 5 teams rotating if they wanted to?
So I think that he's incredibly valid with his claims. The same things came to pass with people that were giving shit to the writer's strike or the Actors Guild strike. Like, oh, the actors don't want to act, and there's no consideration for the general discourse of everything. Like we view these players as we view them as assets, the same way the teams view them as. So like, oh, you can just plug in player A into slot B and then be like, okay, just go make the fun soccer for us.
Let's just point out that Everton are the exception that proves that rule.
Yeah, no, any mention of Everton in all of these discussions is completely irrelevant. If they led any sort of charge for it, I would completely kibosh it out of the amount of spite and malice in my heart. But the fact that even though City has been a steadfast ruler of the league for a long time, Rodri, he makes and those that are kind of poo-pooing his points, where I saw a bunch of people putting up videos who like, well, I'm a plumber and I work 80 hours a week. And they're like, yeah, you're a plumber. How many fucking television contracts are put on the back of you fixing a pipe at the fucking elementary school in your town? None. How many times?
There has to be at least one at TLC.
Not in Britain. No. It may be in like Des Moines, Iowa, like a TLC. There's a roundabout, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's something where people just will yell. It's like, oh, just it's the shuttle. It's a shut up and fucking dribble argument. There's so many things that these players are going through in terms of workload. But us as fans will go like, oh, why did he play shit this week? Because he just played 9 fucking games in 21 days. That's why he played like shit. And maybe if he didn't have to absorb that workload, you could get a better performance at your club. But, oh, no. Well, the fact that he's playing for his country, I'm not focusing on that. I'm not doing anything. Oh, Nations League. Oh, it's shit. I'm not even going to focus on that. The fact that you're not focusing on it doesn't mean that the game is not fucking happening. There's so many things that are just going through, and all these players are being not forced into, but there's so much stakes now that are put into these things that the best players for these countries have to participate. And when they show up lame on a big game, you're like, oh God, why is this guy? Oh God, he's pulled his hammy in the 37th minute. Yeah, because he's played fucking 9 games where he's ran 13 and a half miles in a matter of 2.5 weeks. And while I think a strike overall may be a bit too far with just the amount of money that's being thrown around in these leagues, it's something where if he gets enough really heavy hitters, and for Rhode Island viewers, I'm not talking about Rob Levine, but if he gets enough people on board to really just look at it with the perspective of as like superior athletes being asked to do so much, and when there's any sort of downturn, you're getting shit on. There has to be some give and take.
Brian, in terms of the physical output, I mean, I think if it was, I think Trevor makes a good point. People might, if you're not paying attention to a game, if you're not paying attention to the internationals, you'll assume your player on your team that you love is, sunning themselves or putting their feet up or something like that. And then why are they not fresh on Saturday morning after they've just played on Wednesday? And if that was the case, Everton would have, or actually Manchester City. That's probably why they have the fittest team, because nobody watches them. But I mean, we do have to have some measure of empathy, don't we? Because they are exerting themselves to the limit of the human body almost 3 or 4 times a week. If you're one of the best players on your team, you're playing every minute of every game practically. But there is a limit, isn't there? This isn't baseball. You can't play 6 games in a week. It's physically impossible to do it. We cry, rightly so, and criticize and complain in America about high school soccer players having to do 16 games or more in 8 weeks. Expecting 8 games in 16 weeks is probably pushing the limit already for professional players, given how much fitness training they do every single day. Is there a compromise to be had, do you think? I believe I think you're the one that was talking about the Nations League.
Yep.
Like maybe get rid of that and go back to friendlies at least, where you can pick and choose who you play.
Yep.
Is there a recourse for that to happen, or is this something that is going to come to a head because it is essentially player welfare versus Boku books?
Well, it goes back to the whole thing right there. Follow the money. I mean, who's making money off of this? FIFA, UEFA, this CONMEBOL, AFC. They're all making money off of this right now. I mean, so that's why this Nations League thing was set up, because the group, the main organization, is able to arrange these fixtures to make it into a competitive match. So you don't get the whole choice right there. And do they put a reward status right there that you automatically go to the Confederation Cup, or you go there raise? They raise the bar right there to make this so it forces, like Trevor says, to force the top tier players to have to play. So they're kind of like, if you don't play, then it's like, okay, guess what? You're frowned upon heavily by the main the international, whatever soccer federation or football federation there is in that for that country. So you're forced into these things right there. I mean, if we have 2 more international breaks coming up this year, and really buckle up for the next 21 days. We have 7 matches in 21 days right there. This isn't just us. This is Manchester City. This is a lot of other clubs right there who are facing the same mess right here. Eventually, these are the product. The product is going to suffer, and we saw that this past weekend, because there's some pretty lackluster performances across the board this past weekend, and all gets put down to internationals right there. South American players having to travel across. Only have 2 days to prepare for matches. I mean, you had Wednesday matches and Saturday matches like that. So you have 2 days. How do you properly prepare a squad right there to compete right there in 2 days? It's hard. It's really hard. I mean, we're gonna probably. I understand people have a lot of like, oh, well, these guys make millions of dollars. They make this. I mean, they're making like 200,000 pounds a week. Stuff like that. Okay, they have a short lifespan. I mean, of their career. By about 29, 30, 35, that 200,000 doesn't exist for most players right there. Most of them right there are reduced down to lower wages right there. If they don't invest themselves wisely and go through there and have some good insurance upon their bodies and stuff like that, I mean, this could falter them. And plus, also, you think with the mental health right there, these players of having to put themselves to this grueling type of schedule all the time. We just had I know it's kind of off the topic right there. Just had a non-league player just go there and hang himself at 24 years old yesterday. I mean, the sport's not. It's a grueling sport. I mean, with it on your body, on your mentality, And all we're doing with this is these players right there, they are looked up to so much and put in so much pressure right there. That's a pressure cooker. I mean, we've had many players right there who've had these things right there. Players, Dele Ali is a prime example right there of a player right there who got cooked. I mean, basically got cooked right there by the amount of pressure that was put on him at a young age. And so, yeah, I worry about all the players, even players of clubs I don't support. I worry about them right there because they're all human beings, and you have to worry about them right there, about their well-being.
Speaking of, I mean that was a tragic incident with the non-league player, which is another discussion. Which on when on our Patreon we have a podcast almost specifically about mental health, which everybody should sign up for or watch. Even at that lower level,
buy Cersei's book. Just go.
Yeah, and buy Cersei's book as well. It's very informative about the topic. But even at that low level, especially with young players who are trying to make it, those mental pressures, which we don't see, we can see the physical burden with injuries, etc., and players stand up, but you can't see the mental side of it and the mental injuries. Another example, Jordan Ibe, he was such a promising kid at Anfield, but that's the pressures that they're under. So I would imagine that we kind of all agree that we wouldn't like to see a strike, but if that's what it comes down to get the players the health that they need in order for us to be able to enjoy their best performances each week, except Everton, then maybe that's what it has to come to. Now, a player who isn't playing international football, and it's not because he's on strike, it's because he's a moron, is Darwin Núñez, our old bête noire, as they say in the posh places. We kind of talked about Arne Slot being the number 9 whisperer, but Darwin must have earwax because he has gone backwards, I think, since last year. The style of play doesn't help because at least the Klopp style of play played into his chaotic-ness, for want of a better term. It allowed him to be who he is and to cause problems that way. But Arne Slot's game is a little bit more cerebral, Trevor. Just want to show. So I hope this comes up in terms of your eyesight. But here's some stats from the Liverpool team from Who Scored. This is shots, total shots, of which Darwin Núñez has 1 so far this season. He's also only played 63 minutes. He has played 1/6 of almost the total minutes available. And his 1 shot that he did have wasn't even on target. It was off target. But conversely, he has had 1/6 of the minutes of Mohamed Salah and has 50% as many offsides. At this point, we have been given some sort of stick on the Discord and elsewhere for our criticism of Darwin Núñez, Trevor. But we supported his efforts. But he has to come up with the goods at some point, and some point soon, doesn't he? It's not enough to be a game lad for the amount of money we paid for him and the opportunity cost of who he may have missed out. Because of that, Darwin Núñez, right quick, has to start producing goals, doesn't he?
I think as a whole, the number 9 position on this team is a black hole. Because, yeah, Darwin is an easy target, and it's a relevant target because he's a guy. It's
because he's usually offside, so it's not hard to miss him.
I was gonna say we're all sitting there, and the meme is that like, oh, he's always offsides, and he keeps just falling into it. He keeps just being offsides, and you know what? That's its own thing. But in terms of striker output, and Diego Jota has not been any better. I think the fact that he was able to get just his own poacher's goal has really put the blinders on a lot of people for, oh, well, he's there's just so much that he's doing better. No. And I was coming into it because I talked about what Slot did with Santiago Jimenez and how Jimenez was getting lots of bids from the Premier League, and none of those came to pass. And you can say whatever you want about both sides of that, about how maybe it was a false narrative, maybe it was just coincidence, or maybe Slot just, with the striker contingent he has, it's just not good enough for what he's trying to put forward. And us as Liverpool fans want to go, yeah, like Jota, he's a guy that goes and gets goals. And Nunez, in his moments, can get big goals. Where is that? And I know it's only 4 games, and I know we're in a situation, especially after the Forest result, where there's a lot of people throwing a lot of stones around. I don't want to completely burn the ship yet. I want to give the credit in the bank that I feel it's due. If we're sitting here 8 games in and Jota and Nunez still have like 2 goals combined between them, then we can have a discussion about how his Slot's reputation as a striker whisperer may have been a bit off base. But as for now, I think we kind of just have to see what comes from the games going forward.
Brian, is there a way back for Darwin Núñez, or is he just cursed to be not suited to this league? As so many players have come into the league and not been suited to it. Is Chiesa, do you think, maybe not an option at number 9, but somebody who's going to create an option for somebody else? Maybe Jota hasn't been great either, or maybe Gakpo gets in there, maybe Diaz gets in there, maybe Salah finishes his career as an out-and-out number 9. But it's okay to say that Darwin doesn't suit our team or this league, isn't it? It's not a damning indictment of him. And a big help to Spencer, by the way, just before we go on to that. But we want him to work out, but it's not working out. We can't keep beating our heads against the wall, can we? And hoping that it does, when we could be missing out on players that will do the job that he's paid to do.
So there was a lot of Discord conversation about this at like in the middle of toward the end of the Champions League match on Tuesday regarding Darwin Núñez. I mean, about why we give him a bunch of heat, but we don't give Jota a bunch of heat. So I'm going to go with what Trevor said right there. I think that the number 9 position has a lot to be fulfilled with our club at the moment.
Let me just interject there, though, because I wasn't part of that conversation, but I think the problem is that Jota has shown us that he has done it before. So he's got a lot of stock. He has a lot of stuff in the bank, whereas Darwin Núñez hasn't shown us that yet.
No, absolutely not right there. But and again, my thing I brought up there, I do think the way to fix a Darwin Núñez right there is to have a number 10 behind him, somebody who can actually link up play with him. And I don't think that, and it went basically off of this, what I said about who we're playing at number 10, which is like now Szoboszlai. And I don't think Szoboszlai is the right number 10. So it's like putting the right people in the right positions. Like the past 2 matches right there were Harvey Elliott type of matches right there, where I think that he could have really definitely benefited, especially the Forest match. The Forest match was all Harvey. I think that we could have seen a playmaker behind there. Szoboszlai's not a playmaker. I mean, I'm sorry. He's an outright like run at you. And like more of a number 8 type, or even that put him out on the wide left side right there. But he's not a playmaker, and I don't think that Curtis Jones is a playmaker. I think that that we currently only have one playmaker at our side right there that could fill that type of position to help Darwin Núñez, and that's Harvey Elliott. As far as like what I think is going to wind up happening with Darwin Núñez, I don't see Darwin Núñez's time is very, very numbered with our club at the moment. Now, I'm not going to knock his talent, because I do think that by looking at him, he's done some really incredible things, some great link-up play last season. He scored some really fantastic goals, but he's also missed some ones where he should have scored. He's also been consistently offside, and he doesn't really fit with Arne Slot's system. So the writing's on the wall with that. Do I think that I think in January comes right there, we will have a more telling tale about this. Is if we go in for number 9 in January to go through to up our ranks, or if Dan's comes healthy and we bring him into the mix again, then we'll see where Darwin Nunez is at. But I said plenty of times, January or summertime, that Darwin Nunez will not be a Liverpool player. But I still have to go back to Jota. Like you said right there, Jota has performed before, but Jota's run of form right now is pretty abysmal at the moment. I mean, some of the stuff that he did right there, and even against AC Milan, we had a chance right there where we probably should have been at one point had scored 3 goals right there, and Jota was in the mix of 2 of them. I mean, and then we had the Forest match right there where we had problems with Jota there, but it's not really an excuse to go out there and look back at Darwin Nunez at the same hand right there and say, okay, Darwin Nunez came on, and we've had basically fruitless minutes. You bring Darwin Nunez as an impact sub right there against Forest. What do? Nothing. It was blank, nothing, no production, no anything. I mean, and again, I know we got the rumor, right, the whole stick right there being the Darwin Nunez hate mail club and stuff like that, but we're not. I mean, I wanted to succeed right there, but I don't think he's going to do it here. I mean, I don't think he's going to do it here, and I think that probably for the best of both companies right there, Darwin Nunez probably will fit in a more high profile attacking type side. We're possession based, and so that's not going to work with the system anymore. So wish him best of luck, but I just don't see it happening here.
Now, before I go to Trevor to close off the Darwin Nunez file for this week, let me challenge you on one thing there about the number 10. For the number 10 position to work with Darwin Nunez, do you think he really has to have the intelligence to make the runs that number 10 can find? And Darwin Nunez has not shown us to be the most intelligent of number 9s. I mean, what my concern would be is if you had a good number 10 there, if you had Harvey Elliott there making the passes, the play's just going to get called back because he's going to be making his run 5 seconds too soon. So is the problem with Nunez lack of a number 10, or is it that he's thick as 2 planks?
I mean, it could be a combination of both. I mean, because I think that not to play the devil's advocate kind of thing right there, but it could be because we see him actually play pretty well in the Portuguese league. I know that. I mean, really, the Portuguese league itself is not our league, but it's still a pretty fast-paced, competitive league. So, I mean, I think that you've seen him play and you've seen him actually perform well, and we've actually seen him some matches right there where he's performed well. And I mean, sit back in Discord, maybe the option right there is to do. That's what I was about to say right there, is to have Macka up there right behind him right there as a playmaker. Because, I mean, right now, Macka's is basically a jack of all trades right now, where you can put him in any spot in that midfield and he's going to succeed. And maybe the problem is that we never got that number 6 that we wanted right there to actually ability to have Macka move up. And then in that process right there, Slavozaj would either go there and have to be a sub, or he would be basically the the off player for Salah when Salah was going there moving. But I know one of the questions you asked about Chiesa. Chiesa can play 4 different positions in that front. So you have the ability to move him around right there. And I think that ultimately right there with Chiesa could go on the left side, put Mo as your number 9, which he does play and play some with international and with Egypt. You could do that. I mean, you could move Diaz over to the left, put Chiesa to the right. I mean, there's so many different options that we can do with the front. The problem is we don't have any options to do with the midfield, which is why we're having some of the problems that we're having.
Trevor, last words to you about Darwin Nunez. Is he the Latin American Andy Carroll, who's now playing in the French 4th division, if anybody's interested?
I think if we're talking about the 10 to Nunez connection, there has to be some accountability for that second layer, where we all know that Darwin is an offsides magnet. There has to be an impetus at that point for the person that is playing in that 10 position to spread it out wide to give him a chance to get back. And it goes back to that whole.
But doesn't that miss the moment though? That's the whole point of the 10. Is the timing of the pass is crucial, and if he has to pass it out wide, then
I
he's kind of
understand that
nullified.
that as a 10, as we talk about the Coutinhos and the Elliots, we talk about their creativity and all that, but there also has to be a recognition of the players in the fold of going, okay, this motherfucker's been offsides the last 7 times I've tried to put him on a through ball. Maybe I get through and I use my creativity to find an outlet with Robbo or Trent coming along the sides and use that as a thing to try to keep Darwin onside by going, just come to me. And then everybody's going like, oh, well, he's going to try to pass to him. And then you can swing it out and kind of break the lines that way instead of just beating your head against the wall with a just, flags up, Darwin's offside. If he's going to be offside, at least let him be offsides in a different regard. At least let him be offsides from a cross rather than a through ball up the middle. At least you're exhausting all your options at that point. Because if you can't go centrally forward and you can't go externally, that point, then you just know that you have a dead product and you need to move on. I just think it's something where, especially with Slot, he's going to see that and go. And granted, it's been a small sample size so far. I see that this guy can't do this, so I'm going to try to find some way to try to maximize his talents. And if that attempt at maximization and he still fucks up, then we make the decision to just go, nah, you got to go, brother.
Close off Darwin now, and he may all embarrass us, well, me at least, on this coming Saturday. We have a game against Bournemouth. The Bournemouth used to be the topic of so many jokes by English comedians because it was where the old people went. It was like the Florida of England. They're doing quite well this season so far for the games that have been in it, Brian. We slipped up against Notts Forest, and we shouldn't have slipped up against Notts Forest. Do you see a possible repeat of that result of performance this Saturday, or do you think we'll take it out on them essentially?
No, I don't see a repeat of performance. Like I said before, I think you had a lot of the product of our squad was down to travel and not having enough time to prepare for Forest. And I also think maybe we had a little bit of this little thing of the psychological in our head that we came through and basically shafted Manchester United at Old Trafford. What the fuck is Forest going to do to us at Anfield? So a little bit of that ego thing probably popped out. I'm sure Slot came there and not slapped him around a little bit and say, hey, guess what? This ain't how it is. And you can see that with the first, after Pulisic scored that match right there, we basically came there and ate AC Milan up. We, for the most part, our press right there took control of that whole entire match. So I think that Bournemouth has the potential to be a banana skin. I don't think it's going to be at all. I think that we have enough strength right there to take care of this. So I think we're just probably stick with the same type of play that we've been playing, because I don't think Arne Slot is going to change our system or tactically wise at all. I think that I'd be totally baffled if this lineup changed. So I just think that he's a very consistent type of manager, and I think that I don't see us losing this next match.
Trevor, does the fact that the game is at home help? Because you kind of AC Milan was good. but it was out there. Whereas this is back at Anfield, so it would be a good way to kind of wash the dirt of the Notts Forest game off, wouldn't it be, to do it at home?
Yeah, I think the fact that the goal from Nottingham Forest came so late, and it came in the manner that it did, really just kind of fucked our psyche up. Whereas the
Nunez losing the ball.
Whereas the Pulisic goal in the Milan game, it immediately just and this is going to be a niche movie reference. If anybody's seen the movie The Great White Hype with Damon Wayans and Peter Berg, the premise is that Peter Berg had beaten Damon Wayans as an amateur, and they were putting this fight together on the professional level. And in the first round of the fight, Peter Berg really just landed a solid punch on him. And then there's a through the mouthpiece, are you trying to embarrass me on TV? And then he just beats the shit out of him and just wins decisively. The Pulisic goal, because I was listening to it on the radio on Sirius XM, gave me entire, are you trying to embarrass me on TV vibes? Because the next half an hour of commentary was just Liverpool domination. There's like, oh, fuck, okay. You sat here and you think that Forest beating us, we're a wounded animal now. And yeah, Christian Pulisic, we're on an American radio station. Oh, everybody's going to be super enthused about this. Oh, how about we just knock your fucking dicks in the dirt and just destroy you in every facet of the game going forward? You're going to try to shut it down? Yeah, try all you want. You're going to die. And in every single facet of the game, at any time AC Milan tried to control the midfield, they got smashed. Their defense was at, and I just, oh God, I feel so cringy saying it. They were at 6s and 7s the entire time. Afterwards, they just didn't know what to do after Liverpool imposed their will on them. And that was the response I wanted after Forest. Because from the first 3 games, everybody was riding high. Nobody had anything negative to say. And after the Forest game, people were just wishing for death. There was, everybody's gotta go. January can't come quick enough. And after that first goal, it's like, oh, Costas, oh, you piece of shit. I want to drown you. You're the worst human being on the planet Earth. And then he came good. And Trent came good. And the midfield came good. And everybody just played their part. And it was so beautiful. And that game was something that was real. That's going to go in the lore of Arne Slot of the 0 to 60 of oh no, everything is shit, and then everything's great. And I think there's going to be a lot of the same this weekend. Bournemouth is somebody that's going to try to get a goal early. And if they do, everybody's going to go, oh, God, here we go again. Give me the GTA San Andreas memes. But if they score early and then we get the same response we got with Milan, you can't be angry about it anymore. But if the goal comes late and we get the response that we got with Forest, you can kind of see the dual trends and go, all right, this is something where if they score late and then there's these things going on. We have to react accordingly. But I think there's a lot of moving parts that people need to look at for these games. And let's just hope that this weekend is not one of those ones where there is a super high amount of variance.
Before we wrap up, we go for scores and star player, which is not going to be Darwin Núñez, just so everybody knows. But the fantasy show is on immediately after this, so make sure you're sticking around for that if you want hints and tips on how to be good at it. Brian, what is your score prediction that we're going to nail it to for the pre-match as well for the Saturday game, and who's going to be your standout player?
3-0, and it will continue to be, as John loves to hear it, Gravenberg.
I mean, that's a good show because he's having the fantastic season we hope Darwin Núñez would have for his position, and we'll maybe see it. Trevor, what is your score prediction, and who's your standout player going to be?
I am biting Spencer's Temujin special. I feel this is a game where Bournemouth does score in the first half, but the entire front line, whoever that is, I'm not going to put Darwin in there, but I will say one across the board, whether it be Gakpo, Jota, Salah, Gakpo, Núñez, Salah, Diaz, Jota, whatever three. The entirety of the front line is going to get one a pop.
I think I'll go for that. That'll be a nice one. And I'm going to go for 4-0. But I think the star player is going to be Trent. I think he's going to have a big part to play in the game. So it just remains to say before we go and let the EPL fantasy lads have their moment. Make sure you're liking us on the YouTube. Make sure you're liking us on Facebook and Instagram, and following us on the Patreon where the good stuff is, and joining our Discord channel.
I'm absolutely going to be paying attention to the next one because my team is in the toilet.
There you go. That's as good a reason as any. Alan says who will hit the woodwork first. It's going to be Núñez when he comes on. It's just bound to happen.
Núñez in the 87th minute.
In the 87th minute.
Mo did twice.
We're going to say thank you to everybody who commented and watched and liked and followed. Thank you to Trevor. Brian, we're not going to see for a couple of weeks.
Just one, maybe.
Just 1 week. So good luck with the stuff. And we will hopefully see you soon. And Trevor will be back next week for sure with more shenanigans. But for now, I'm getting ready to go to see Ringo start tomorrow. So everybody can go take a run and jump as far as I'm concerned. We'll see everybody next week for pre-match and post-match on Saturday. Enjoy the game. It's going to be a fantastic one. Peace out. Here is the 70s porn.